Anyway, we're in the book of we're in Luke, and we're going to continue our search in Luke. We're going to continue to read what he's saying, kind of in order, and it's a tough section, man. He's telling us things we don't want to hear. And so here we go. This one, look at what's the first phrase in this next verse. 46 through 49 of chapter 6. We'll finish chapter 6 today. It says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? Everyone who comes to me and hears my words and acts upon them, I will show you whom he's like. He is like a man building a house, who dug deep and laid a foundation on the rock. And when a flood occurred, the torrents burst against that house, could not shake it, because it had been well built. But the one who has heard and has not acted accordingly is like a man who built a house on the ground without any foundation. And the torrent burst against it, and immediately it collapsed, and the ruin of that house was great." Now in Matthew, it says sand and rock, and it's a picture of the river in Palestine, probably the Jordan. It dries up in the summer, and then people build things on it. Excuse me. Then people build things on it, and then the winter, it comes up and washes them all away. And the guy who built on the rock had to build out of the river and up above. So we're going to start at the end, and we're going to work our way back through these verses back to the beginning. We're going to start with the guy who builds on the sand. I have known considerable numbers of people who built on sand, who did not build on the rock that he's describing, which is acting upon the words of Jesus. I have known many people who have built many things: car lots, real estate offices, construction companies, many things built on promises and principles and ideas and thoughts that God's going to bless me. And their whole house of cards was on sand. And when storms came, which isn't literal rain, it's the storms of life came, their whole empire crumbled. I have known so many people whose life was built on what they were trying to build, those very same construction companies. So when your construction company goes away or your house burns down, what's your life built on? And in this set of verses, it's what are you doing? It's really clear in here. What are you doing? It's acting accordingly to the words of Jesus. People are telling me all the time their Christian beliefs, while they are acting out the opposite of Christian belief. It's like you can't separate what you say about what you believe from what you do. What you do has to be the result of what you believe. And if the result of what you believe is not doing what Jesus said, then you don't have the expectation that Jesus will save you, rescue you, come get you. He says, "Why do you call me Lord? I'm not your Lord." Guess who's your Lord? You're your Lord. All the time people say, I'm following, but I decided this was better. Well, what you did was decided following was the right thing, so you chose to follow. And then when you decided it wasn't, you didn't want to do that. You did this because you're following you. Even when you're following you. Wow. It's like, I'm going to do what you say because I want to do what you say. And then I don't want to do what you say because I want to do something else. Well, then it really reveals that you were never following. That's what he's saying here. Why do you call me Lord? I was never your Lord. In another place it says, many will come to me on that day, and I'll say this. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. I never knew you. Egads. He never knew you. What were you thinking? What were you listening to? What were you reading? Why did you ignore this? What is your life built on? Obedience to what he says? Acting upon what he says? Here it's acting accordingly. It's like, I don't care what your Bible says in English. It means he's your Lord if you do what he says. Isn't that what it says? I mean, it says it, mine says that plainly. And so the guy building on the sand, I've known so many. I knew one guy wanted to commit suicide. He was breaking mirrors, trying to break the mirror so he couldn't see himself in it. He hated himself so much. He had abandoned his 3 children. He loved his 3 children, he said. He had abandoned them. He had broken his wife until she was running amok. His kids were being passed from house to house. He just got out of prison. Come follow me. I'll teach you how to build your house on the rock. Within a year, their marriage was restored. I think it was maybe just a short time over a year, they had all their kids living with them. The family was restored. What are you living on? He kept arguing with me. I want to do this. I want to do that. We had meetings. You can never do those things. You can never do those things again. Don't you remember how hideous it was to see your children being destroyed because of what you did? And Jesus restored everything. Their life was restored. The Father's House Church carried them, carried on back, paid for everything, carried them. And then he announced what he's doing. He's following him. Don't do that. Don't do that. Please, I'm begging you. Look at this child's face. He's happy. He feels like he's protected. He feels safe. Look at this girl. She's 11. You go one more time around the mountain, you'll come back. You'll have lost her forever. Don't do this. She'll be 13. She'll be 14. You'll lose her. The world will swallow her up. Don't do this. I was standing on this very street right here. Don't, please. You say you believe me, you have 0 chance. I'm going to follow me. 2 weeks later, he's under Tiffany's desk seeing demons come through the curtains. He's so high. A couple weeks after that, he's fighting a police officer in Louis' yard. Gets more charges and he's back to prison. 2 weeks. I've seen so many people built on the sand, proclaiming, I've got this, Jesus. Like a man who built his house on the sand, like some kind of abracadabra can fix it. Amani Nabisco, you're okay, be well. No. Deny yourself, pick up your cross, follow me. Do good to those who hate you. Love those who persecute you. Give to every man that asks. Lend without thought of, I don't want to. Return good when they insult you. Love those who insult you. These words of mine. It's going to be pie in the sky, right? He's going to say, I give you everything. Whipped cream and cherries every day? No. They're going to strike you. Turn the other cheek. They're going to steal from you. Bless them for it. They're going to ask for your shirt, your coat. Give them your shirt too. What? We've been talking about this for weeks now. And now he's telling you the very foundation under your feet depends on whether you do what he just said. And what he just said can't be separated. It's in the same chapter. It's a dialogue. It goes from do to do. Did you like that? That went on the internet. You could say I doo-dooed on the internet. You understand what I'm saying, though? Don't lose what I'm saying, because that was a faux pas. Because he also said something pretty awesome. He said, if you do what he says, your house is on the rock. And when that same storm comes, you'll endure it. When you won't end up under the desk. You won't end up stupid. That went on the internet too. You won't end up losing it. If you do what he says, act upon it. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was naked and afraid and you comforted me. I was in prison and you visited me. When you did so unto the least of these. Wow. That's all I have to do. That's a pretty small price, I'm telling you. That's all I have to do to be on a rock. Trust in me. I preached in Pakistan this morning. Why do you worry about what you'll eat or what you'll wear or what you'll drink? Don't you know your Father in heaven takes care of the lilies of the field and the sparrows of the sky? Right. The birds of the air, I think is what he said, the birds of the air. Don't you know he takes care of you? Now these people have really mean, hateful people knocking at their door to ask if they're Christians. And it ain't going to go good if they say yes. So they know they have to say yes. They don't want anyone knocking. You follow? In Pakistan, yeah. And I'm preaching to them from my Western village about why do you worry? Because I think what I have is something to worry about. And it's Jesus saying this, act upon it. And what's he asking us to act upon? Whether you're in Pakistan or you're in Orsillo, he's asking you, why don't we just trust the Lord? Why don't we just believe that he will take care of us like he takes care of the sparrows, or like he takes care of he said this, Solomon in all of his glory is not arrayed in as much splendor as this field of lilies. Will he not take, if he takes care of fields of lilies that tomorrow would dry up and go away, how much more will he take care of you who are eternal? His children. And so the goal is to be his children, not his children. Do you get that? Do not fail to be his children. Fail to trust in him. Do not fail to trust in him. And the idea is that when you look at little children and how they trust their parents, even if those parents don't deserve it, they trust their parents. Right. But you and I are supposed to trust our Father who art in heaven, who does deserve it. It should be a lot easier to trust him than it is to trust a father. And we're supposed to trust him as though we were little children. He says, we know this because he says, little children. And he's talking to you and me. This is the goal of heaven, that you and I would see ourselves as little children, trusting him as a father that can be depended on. And he takes care of everything around us. The sun just rises every day. We don't understand it at all, even though we think we do. The sun does not rise, Steve. The earth turns. Okay, I got it. You don't understand it any better than I do. I was going down a road in Alaska with the sun dead in our eyes, man. It was like, he said, you know what's funny? In September, the sun's in our eyes. In June, it rises behind us. So up there in the top of the world, it's so different. It's like, I don't understand that. How is that possible that in September it's in our eyes going, on this road it's going in your eyes going this way, but in June it's in your eyes going that way at 7 a.m. How's that possible? I just, get some balls and try to figure it out, try to show me. I don't get it. There's so many things we don't get. But if we will act upon his words, we can trust him that he's got it handled. Amen. We saw some tides in Alaska. You don't see as many tides here in the middle part of the earth like you see in Alaska. There's a place called Turnagain Arm where Captain Cook back in 1750 or something like that would come in his ship and the tide was going out. He had to turn around and go back out and wait for the tide to come in. He'd come in, but man, the tide's going to have to turn around, so they called it Turnagain. This bay, we call ours San Francisco Bay. They call theirs Turnagain. because ships have to go in and turn again. We have motors in our bay. They had sails in 1750. A little bit different. So they named it after all the hard work they had to do to get back out of here before the tide went out. They have 29 feet of tidal change. Each time, twice a day, is it? Does anyone understand tides? I don't know. But I don't understand tides. Do you? We just trust that God has it handled. Why can't we trust that about what we'll wear, what we'll eat, what we'll drink, where we'll live? He's trustworthy, as he does with the lilies, the tides, where the sun rises and sets, just like he said to Job. Where were you? Do you know where the snow comes from? Well, Job didn't know. He had to trust God for that. And it went on and on. Where the grass grows, all that stuff. What feeds the earth? How does the earth stay in its place? It's crazy. I could go on and on about that stuff. Did you know the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon? Did you know the sun is 400 times further from the earth than the moon is? And it's perfect for making an eclipse. I mean, just go on and on. There's so many weird things out there, and it just doesn't make sense to me. He's got it. My daddy's got it. If you hear these words of mine, Jesus says, and these words of his are tough, man. I get to repeat this group because we just studied it, but as we go, the list doesn't get shorter. Anyone who hears these words of mine and acts accordingly, kind of like, cast all your cares on me. I'd like to obey that one. That's one I want. When we get to that one, I'll say, yeah, I want this one. When he says turn the other cheek, it's like, no. I don't want to be slapped in the face, so I have to turn the other cheek. I don't want to give my coat, my shirt also. No. Well, there's this stone and sand. Okay, go slap away. I need to be on the stone because, man, storms are coming. Did you know storms are coming? There are storms coming. It didn't say if the water rises. It says when the flood comes. It's coming. Right. Some of us, I'm telling you, we like to talk about what's coming. Even people are talking about post, mid, and pre-trib rapture now and again. It's been many years since I heard that one because everyone's afraid that something really bad's coming. But people are in tribulation right now, all over the world, and right here in Orville, a lot of people in this room are in tribulation right now. Right. They're struggling through some things that are so big they can't hardly get over them. Right. But why aren't we trusting him? Why aren't we hearing his words and acting upon them in the midst of these troubles? Because if we do, we're going to be on the stone, we're going to be on the rock. What is the rock? It's what he told Peter it's the revelation that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And what he said in this verse it's the obedience or the acting upon what he says to us. And he says a lot of really, really good stuff. He says a lot of really, really challenging stuff. Some of it's so hard it bends my knees. But the promise of standing through the storm, the promise of walking through the valley of shadow of death and fearing no evil, the promise of not being afraid, of trusting that your daddy has you. This promise is worth standing on. It's worth fighting for. Becoming children of God, being conformed into the image of his Son, it's worth it to be in Jesus' likeness. And if we work our way all the way back around these verses, we get to the point where, yes, there's people who are on the sand and it's just hideously miserable to watch them drift away, to watch them fall away with a belief in their heart that Jesus is Lord, but a life that's on the sand because they will not live a life in obedience. Good. And just watch them. We've had 28. We just found out yesterday, we have 28 people who've left LRM, our recovery ministers, and died. And we have loved them all and watched them all just drift away. Right. Paul the Apostle used the word drift. He said, meditate on the word continually. Now you understand he didn't have a Bible. You understand, people want to today make that the Bible. Meditate on the word daily. What he's talking about is what God has spoken to the people. What Jesus has spoken to the people. Meditate on the word daily, continually, really is what he said, lest you drift away. And what that's like is the current in a river. We were fishing, and we got on the bite. All 6 of us got a bite at one time. And then we have no bites. And Rod says, guys, I got to start the engine and go back where we were on the bite. Well, I had no idea we weren't there. We're in the middle of an ocean with a current. And I'm like, I can't tell we're drifting. And he drove the boat a long way. I'm like, we drifted that far from where they bit? Because he has a radar. He knows right where they were biting. And he put us back on the bite. But I had no idea. We would have drifted all day. I would have said we're right where we were. We're still fishing the same hole. You couldn't tell this drift. And it's a really good word picture for what Paul said about meditate. Stay close. Make this important. Make it real. Lest you drift away. And all those people I've known in my life that were once hot for Jesus, but they're not anymore. I actually know pastors who aren't believers anymore. I'm dead serious. They drifted away. Some because someone hurt them. Someone betrayed them. Something happened to them. Someone died that they wanted saved. And they drifted away. They didn't stay in tune to the word, which is Jesus Christ, which is obedience to the Lord. They didn't stay on the foundation. They had sand under their feet, and they drifted away. It's a nautical term for a boat not making the dock, but drifting past the dock, lest you drift past your docking point, lest you miss the prize, lest you miss the finish line. Why do you call me Lord? Making all the way back to the beginning. Why do you call me Lord? And you don't do what I say. Let me tell you what it's like. It's like a man who was building a house and built his house on a rock. The one who did what he says is like the man who built his house on the rock. I can't decide where your foundation is. That's up to you. You have to decide what you're going to do. And you can't ignore these verses that are just crazy. Give and every man that asks and don't expect to be repaid. I was hungry and you fed me not. When? I would never not feed you, Jesus. I would never ignore you, Jesus. Kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that when a man found it, he went and sold all that he had so that he could buy the land and own the treasure. A man gave up everything to possess the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is like a pearl of great, a merchant seeking fine pearls. And he found you and he gave up everything he had to possess you. And so it's, will you be owned? No. Will you give up everything you own to possess him? You don't have to. My pastor says. But Jesus says. Will you give up everything you own to possess the kingdom of heaven? Will you allow his giving up everything he had possess you? Kingdom of heaven is like a lump of dough that a woman put in, each one until the whole lump became leavened. Will you allow him to change you? Will you allow him to cause you to become a leavened lump? I have to ask myself, what's leavening my lump? False teaching? Right teaching? The truth? The lies of this world? The deception of this world? Am I drifting past? Or am I staying focused and locked on? Am I anchored? That's what I have to ask myself continually. Because the minute I say, I'm the pastor of the church, and put my guard down, I'll be drifting, and I won't even know it. I go, what? We're not where we were? I'll be drifting. I stay eye on the prize. I stay the upward call of God in Jesus Christ. That's my focus, the finish line. And I highly recommend, and I'll just keep preaching that, and we'll fail or we'll shrink, but I don't care. I'm going to preach what he says. And what he says is, why do you call me Lord and don't do what I say? Why do you call me Lord and don't follow me? In John chapter 12, he says, my words will judge you. I'm like, ooh. He says, I won't judge you. I won't judge you. My words will judge you. Okay, what are your words? They're right there. Okay, and if I act on them, my house is being built. I've had my fair share of storms in my life lately. I really had a long period of time with no storms, and I thought it's because I was blessed and I would never have storms. But I've had some storms, man. I am not lying. I have had some storms, and my life has not been shook an iota. My faith has not been shook an iota, and I'm really happy with that. That makes me happy. I know sometimes I wonder, would I pass a test? I have so far. My eyes on the prize, I have not turned back. I met Jesus, I fell in love. And I'm after him. And I'm calling you to be after him. Be after him. Be after knowing what he's saying. Making sure. David's not going to get you there. Solomon is not going to get you there. Jacob, Moses, none of them. Isaiah, they're not going to get you there. It's the words of Jesus Christ. It's the words of Jesus Christ acted upon that are going to keep you on a rock, that are going to cause you to be storm-free or storm-resistant, as it were. Having done all to stand, stand therefore. It's the words of Jesus that are going to produce that for you and in you. And I would be remiss not to tell you that. It would be a failure of my calling not to tell you that. But for me, I want Jesus. I fell in love. And I get to feel him whenever I want. I can just close my eyes. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes in a minute, and you can feel him. Close your eyes. Minute's up. Feel his presence. Become aware of it. We have gathered in his name this morning, haven't we? We have worshiped him. He says, I'll inhabit the praises of my people. Where two or more gather in my name, there will I be in the midst of them. Just take a moment and pause, would you? Feel his presence. Oh my God, my Lord and my God. His holiness is here. The Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. Behold the King. Our Redeemer lives. Please increase your anointing today, Lord. Help us. For we have all fallen short of your glory. We have all fallen short, and we need you, Lord. I need you.
Thanks for watching the Father's House Orville YouTube channel, but don't stop there. We'd love you to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a live service or a video. Help us spread the message of Jesus by sharing this video with your friends. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thanks again for watching today, and we hope to see you again soon.